really wasn't going to video this, and I figured I'd just throw this in here somewhere. This is the, it's an air valve that engages the pump. This is not the solenoid side. This is the valve side. So what this does is you got air input and then 2 outputs. And what it does is it engages and disengages a solenoid that looks a lot like this valve. It's just a little plunger, that goes either way. And it engages the pump, which disengages the drive to the rear wheels. That's how this thing works, is you pull up on this, it's got a knob, pull up on it, and that plunger moves and disengages the drive and engages the pump. And push it back down, air flows the opposite direction, pushes the plunger the other way, and it goes that way. But what I found, I had an air leak at the top of this valve. So I went ahead and I'm trying to get rid of my air leaks. Now, the other end of the plunger side of this thing, the solenoid, whatever you want to call it, I'm sure it's probably froze up as well. This side, the valve side, this valve was froze up. So I took it apart. I wasn't going to video any of that, and I didn't video taking it apart or anything, but basically this is an aluminum housing. This is a steel shaft. The steel shaft rusted into this aluminum housing, and I soaked it down, and then I just took it over to my press, pressed it apart, took this is the center of this shaft here is turned down smaller, and so this sticks out in there, and it acts as a, keeps it from extending too far out or in. It's kind of the stop. So I took this out, pressed this apart, cleaned up the shaft, cleaned up the bore of the aluminum bore. It was actually in really good shape. It just had some rust stuck to it from the shaft. Cleaned up the shaft and brass wire wheel, put 2 new O-rings on it, put it all back together with grease all on it. Help keep it from rusting. And so I'm gonna go put this back on it.
This thing, I think it's gonna be shaky. But if you can see the valve right there, I already opened it, or the plunger. Spray it with some soapy water, make sure it's not leaking, but it's working.
Well, that doesn't look good, does it? So I decided to just quickly engage the pump, just let out on the clutch and just see if it moved. I just wanted to see if the pump was free, and it's not. It stalled the truck out. So just doing it in idle, and I tried it in 5th gear. It's supposed to pump in 5th gear, and when it stalled out in 5th gear, just tried it in 3rd, just to make sure that it wasn't because I had the truck in idle. I was trying not to turn the pump fast, So I put it in 3rd, which would gear it down a little more, and it still stalled it out. So I think the gearbox itself is okay right here. The fluid in it, or the oil in it, looks good. It operates on the highway just fine, no noises from what I can tell. I don't think the issue is there. I think the issue is the pump itself. So that's when I pulled these off on both sides, and just piles of rust inside. But there's also this stuff, it kind of looks sandy, but I'm probably gonna guess that it's some foam, dried up foam material that it pumped, is my guess. I think what we're gonna do, I'm a member of a Facebook group that, you know, restores fire trucks and stuff like that. So kind of asked them what they would do in this situation. They suggested, you know, filling it up with water to try to flush it out, you know, flush anything out. So we're gonna do that. And then also, you know, diesel and ATF, motor oil, all, you know, just filling it up with anything. So I think what we're gonna do is first do it with water and make sure this thing will actually hold liquid, and that'll help flush anything out. And we'll also see if we can drain it. So we'll fill it and then see if we can drain it. And then after that, if that goes well, you know, we'll check it, see if it'll turn then. If it still won't turn, then we're gonna fill it up with diesel. This also is equipped with auto lube. So I did some research on that, but they also informed me on that as well. What that is it's got a cover right there. It's opposite of the input shaft, and that's the auto lube. And I don't know a whole lot about it. I think there is some kind of a diaphragm in there, because I watched a YouTube video and they talked about pulling a suction on it and it opens up the diaphragm or something where it'll hold more oil. But evidently those are known for the lube getting water contaminants in it. There's a drain on it on the bottom and a fill on the top. So we probably will try to pull the bottom plug out and just see what the fluid looks like. If it looks pretty bad, then we'll drain it and fill it again. So we've got that. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I think the best option for us to fill this thing with water and diesel, you know, when we're ready to do diesel, is probably at the top. So we'll go up there and see what our options are. That would make sure we fill the pump completely. Once we fill it, we can open up one of these valves and let it flush out. I think that's gonna be the best option. We'll pick the one that moves the easiest, probably this one. Or actually, maybe this one, the lowest point. We'll pick the lowest point, which will probably be this one. I don't know if this one operates, I can't remember. Yeah, some of these are froze up. We might can get it freed up, but must be open. I would think that this portion of it would fill up by now if it was not. I don't see any water leaking out yet. Tank valve is closed, so we're not going to feed into the tank. Yeah, I think we're good to go down. This would have filled up by now. Water hose, I mean, it's not going to supply a ton of pressure, but it is on full blast. Oh, we got some water coming out now. Let's go see. All right, so we're coming out the inlet. So I'm gonna let that run for a while. Then we might just throw this back on here and seal it all off and let it fill up. But we'll flush it like this for a little bit. All right, so here's what we've got. That manifold over there seals up. This one, I'm sure I'm using the wrong names for it. This one, I can't get it to operate. I'm gonna have to, you know, take this one off and soak it down, probably in some oil, and get it to move because it's froze up. So I can't seal this one off. So I've rotated it to where it's up to get as much water in the pump as possible. It's at least allowing it to get up to the outputs. So we've got water coming out here. You can see it's perfectly clear now. shut this one off. You can see we get more water coming out of there. It's mostly clear. You can still see it's got a little bit of stuff in it. So we're gonna let this run for a while, and then I think we'll crank it up and just see if the pump might turn. Kind of my process has been tip this thing up like this, let it fill up, and then dump it over. And I got all that rust. I had clear water coming out of here, and when I dumped that thing over, I got clear water out and then a bunch of nasty cloudy water and then rust. So I'm gonna do this quite a few times until when I tip it over, it comes out clean. So what this is doing is filling the pump up, and then we're quickly getting the water out. I can't quickly get water in. You know, a water hose is just not gonna be a lot of water in. If I could hook this thing up to a fire hydrant, then, you know, we could probably flush it out a lot better. But what I can do is get water out of it quickly. You know, if I can't get water in it quickly, I can get water out of it quickly to hopefully flush stuff out. So we'll do this. Maybe you'll see. See, it looked a little, we had clear water coming out until the very end, and it knocked some rust out. So we'll keep doing this. And maybe this thing will get flushed out and it'll move. I think I'm gonna go get the keys and crank it up, let it build some air pressure so we can engage the pump drive. The alternator's not charging yet. There we go. Building up air pressure quicker. Look at that. It's free. Well, it looks like it's fine. I think it's through both halves. So it's just in first gear. We're barely moving it. It's not pumping water. It's full of water. So we've got the pump full of water. It's not running dry or anything, but we're not, you know, pushing water out. So it's moving so slow. It's idling in first gear. The pump's barely moving. Well, I got myself wet. Not bad, but I guess curiosity got the better of me. And since I knew the pump was full of water, had that, I wanted to engage it again, because it seems like when I engage the pump, it stirs up this gunk in the pump that I can then flush out. So with it idling, I threw it in fifth gear and just let out on the clutch with it idling. Just let out on the clutch and pushed it back in just to start that pump. Just real quick spin, and that real quick spin shot a huge stream of water out, and it shot the water hose out. It went all in the cab because I had the door open. I don't know why I didn't expect it to do that, but it shot out a ton of water. And I don't even have the nozzle, you know, to get pressure on it. But this pump is going to be good, I think. It's just full of junk. Look how nasty that is. You see all the water that is now running down. I'm gonna let this run for a while. We're gonna have to find a good water source. Maybe if I clean the tank, we can put some water in it, or if I have a strainer, I have a pond but I don't have a strainer for the end of the hose, and I don't want to suck something up into the pump. Maybe I can see if I can get one of those. I got 2 hoses, okay, and I don't know if the primer pump, see, like right now we're backfilling the pump, so you know it should have taken out any air, but you know, if we were trying to suction, I think we would need that primer pump working, which it's not. So, but that was kind of nice that it actually worked. Maybe I can step that back. Again, it's just going to be let out on the clutch, push it back in. Stirred up a bunch of stuff in the pump again, so it's good to rotate. You know, we're rotating it, getting it to stir up that stuff, and then flushing it out. All right, so one thing, I don't know why I didn't realize it before, but I went to drain the line. As you can see, we've got that main line that runs to the tank has a drain right there. So I went to drain it and nothing came out. And I was wondering, like, well, it stopped up. And then I got to looking at the lines, and there's no suction line, or there's no line from the tank for suction from the pump. So the main Hale pump does not feed off of the tank. And I was wondering about that because, you know, I wondered how they did that. So that tank was just only a foam solution. There's no provisions for water. I thought there is the tank's so rusty you can't tell if it was just a baffle in the tank or if it was some kind of divider, but there's only one feed coming from the tank, so I figured, well, it's got to be just a baffle. But there's no, like I said, there's nothing feeding into that from the tank to the main Hale pump. It all runs through this pump right here that runs off the PTO on the off the transmission. And all that did was pump foam from the tank to these proportioning valves that mix with water. So you put how much foam solution you want with the water that is either being suctioned from a pond or from a hydrant or something like that. And that's how this thing works. And then you've got one that also goes right here up to the water cannon or foam cannon. So there is nothing to connect the tank to the pump. So whatever was in the pump was not a foam, dried up foam that settled, and it had to have been sand or something. I guess they drafted from some kind of a pool or something that had sand in it, and that's where all that came from. And it just, I guess, years of maybe not flushing it, maybe it settled out. I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of junk that came out of the pump, so I really don't know. But it's free now. I've got the drain working, and what I'm doing with that is I've got it open, and then I'm feeding water into the pump to kind of flush the drain out, and then we will remove the water source, open this back up, and tilt that side back down and leave that open to let the water drain out of the tank. So our pump drain is working, so that's good. All I had to do, I just took some vice grips and clamped onto it and started wiggling it back and forth, and once I started getting it to back and forth, I could get it to go up and down. And there was a bunch of crap on top of it that I flushed out just with water. I had the water hose over here and just ran it in here, and it flushed a bunch of gunk that had just settled down, grit and stuff that was on top of that valve. So it's working now, so we can drain the pump. The only thing I guess really it's not working on the pump itself that I can tell is this. We're gonna have to get this freed up. So what I may do is just try to unbolt this thing. I don't want to break these plastic gears, so I'm not gonna try to put too much pressure on it. I did spray it down in there, but I think our best bet is just to unbolt it and work with it like that. So we'll deal with that some other time. I don't think we need to put any diesel or anything in the pump. It seems to be working well. What we really need to do is get it to where we can run some water on it and kind of do an actual test. I don't have any fire hose or anything, but we could use the water cannon as a test. I think that's it for today. Great progress today. I was really bummed yesterday. And of course, you're seeing this maybe all in one video, but I was super bummed that the pump was seized up. And now, you know, we've got it. We know it pumps. It's free. I need to check the auto lube, so I'll do that after it dries out. And I wanted to run this water through it because I didn't want to contaminate I didn't want to put new oil in it now, you know, with running this water through it. I'd rather drain it now after we've had water in it and we've drained the water. You know, if the oil's got water in it, we'll drain it, put fresh oil, and then we can stick fresh oil in it instead of contaminating it again, like, you know. So that's why I did all this testing with water first before I address the auto lube, but we will address that. So great news. So we're gonna leave this off here. I'm gonna take that water hose out, we'll drain it, and then I'm done. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more.